Hi guys, I'm Nestor Jasso, and so the short story I chose for today is What You Pawn I Will Redeem, and the theme I chose is relationships. But I try to challenge myself with this. I didn't just try to look at actual physical relationships, I mean that too, but also his relationship with himself, his identity, his alcohol abuse. I try to look at the correlation between all of it and try to make sense of it. So, to start off, here we have our first quote. One day you have a home and the next day you don't, but I'm not going to tell you my particular reasons for being homeless because it's my secret story, and Indians have to work hard to keep secrets from hungry white folks. So here you can see his perceived relationships that he feels the Native American community feels towards white people. um, and he really, it's more under the line of the last part of this quote. Indians have to work hard to keep secrets from hungry white folks. Right here, he's discussing the relationship that he feels has been brought on from generation to generation, where you can see Indians having to keep things away from white people because they might steal their culture for whatever reason. And so I looked at that and I thought about the Coca Cola secret formula. Um, you know how they have that hidden vault with the secret magical ingredients of the famous product, that not just hungry white people, not just thirsty white people are desperate to know the recipe, but just people in general. I feel like it's this big mystery, what's inside the vault. I even want to know. So that's what I kind of pictured this quote to be in a bit. um, all right. So for slide number three, being homeless is probably the only thing I've ever been good at. I know where to get the best free food. I've made friends with restaurant and convenience store managers who let us use their bathrooms. I know it sounds strange to be proud of, but it means a lot to me, being trustworthy enough to piss in somebody else's clean bathroom. So right here, he describes the relationships that he's made with some of the managers, convenience store managers, restaurant owners, and how he's built enough trust. He's built enough trust so he can use the nice restroom, so his squad can use the nice restroom. And what I thought about this was we've all seen those videos of people playing with tigers and the tiger owners and how close they are with them. But if you really think about it, you have to have so much trust for this to happen. I mean, a tiger can literally eat you in an instant, and yet these people are trustworthy enough to play with them and to be with them and to be close with them. And so, I mean, that's how I kind of envisioned this quote. That's what I thought about because both in this relationship, you got to trust the tiger, and the other relationship, I mean, store managers, convenience store managers, they have to be trustworthy. They have to have that trust. They have to have that connection. They have to have all of that to let a homeless person use their restroom. So, yeah. Okay, so for the next slide, I wander the streets with a regular crew, my teammates, my defenders, and my posse. It's Rose of Sharon Jr. and me. So when I saw teammates, defenders, and my posse, I don't know if it's because I'm taking human anatomy right now and I'm learning about cells and science and all of this, but I remembered the animal cell and how each part works as a team to make sure that all the organelles work together to carry out functions. And see, and so for this quote you have him talking about his relationship with his closest friends and how they're his defenders, his teammates. And so I kind of related to that with the animal cells, how all these different organelle systems work together to carry out functions. So yeah, I know I'm kind of boring. I implemented science for my slide. so, so for the next one, Junior is a Colville. He's good looking though. he just stepped out some "Don't Litter the Earth" public service advertisement. He's got some great big cheekbones that are like planets, with little moons orbiting around them. He gets me jealous, jealous, and jealous. So, right here you have him discussing the relationship that he has between Junior and how he's kind of jealous. He's a good looking dude, so he's basically, owning up to that envy. And so, right here's a picture that I found of a girl looking at another girl's obviously superior lunch, and it took me back to when, I don't know if you guys can relate, but it took me back to when I was in school, and you see those kids with the Lunchables, and you're stuck with your mom's PB&J. So that's what it kind of reminded me. Um, but yeah, obviously you can see she's obviously jealous of that meal, um, just like the main character is jealous of Junior's luck, and well, that's part of their relationship, right? So moving on. Okay, I am living proof of the horrible damage that colonialism has done to us skins, but I'm not going to let you know how scared I sometimes get of history and its ways. So, this quote was honestly really deep, and he discussed the relationship again. Going back to the first slide, I don't know if you guys remember, but if you don't, so he's talking about how white people colonized America, how white people colonized these Indians, these Native Americans, and how they kind of left them uh, abandoned, and oh, so much of their land got taken away. And to me, that just reminded me of the oil spills that are currently affecting a lot of these turtles, a lot of these sea creatures, and they are the product. They are the product of the pollution that a lot of these corporations are throwing onto this world, and just like he feels like he is the product, he is living proof of the horrible damage that colonialism has done to us. So to me, that's how I kind of looked at it. But yeah. Okay, so for the next one, I know it's crazy, but I wondered if I could bring my grandmother back to life, if I brought back her regalia. So he thinks in this book, in this short story, right, that if he bought his regalia, that if he bought that regalia back, that somehow he would bring back her grandma to life. Obviously, maybe not physically, but maybe in spirit. And so I chose this picture of a dead flower and then being revived to a new flower, because in this quote he discusses, obviously he has a relationship with his grandmother. This whole story kind of revolves around the beautiful concept of her grandmother. I feel like he didn't really know her that well, but still having this person in your family that meant so much to your community, your culture, that still resonates with you. And that was his relationship with his grandmother. And so, how do you relate this to this picture? We got a dead flower, we're reviving it. It sounds crazy to some. You can't revive a dead flower, just like you can't revive someone that's obviously dead. But, but I did like the optimism in this quote. So, this quote really stuck with me. Okay, so for the next one, somebody kicked me in the ribs. I opened my eyes and I looked up at a white cop. Jackson, said the cop. Is that you? Officer Williams, I said. He was a good cop with a sweet tooth. So in here, if you go back to the story, you can recall that he got really drunk and then he was just lying on some train tracks, and Officer Williams woke him up. And so I feel like this is a repeated story for the main character where he often, because of alcohol, gets in serious trouble. I mean, he probably got homeless because of it. And time and time again, it seems like alcohol is the main reason that's holding him back in life, just like you see in this picture. Um, the He's being handcuffed to an alcohol beverage, and right here you can see the relationship between the cop and the main character. You can see that they're good people, that he's a good cop and he sees the good in him and they both see the good in each other. And even though, Jackson has been severely damaged his whole life because of alcohol abuse, he still manages to form a great relationship with those. And he's very resistant and he has a great personality. He's very optimistic. And to me, you can see that these two people have a great connection, a great relationship, and it's great to see. um, yeah, I really liked that portion of the story. Okay, so for the next one, no, it's tribal. It's an Indian thing. When you win, you're supposed to share with your family. So this kind of describes his relationship that he's had with his culture and the relationship that he's also had with the store cashier. If you don't recall in the book, he wins a lottery ticket and he wins 100. He gets a lottery ticket. He wins $100, and then he shares a fifth of that with the cashier. And the cashier initially refused, but the main character insisted. It's tribal. It's an Indian thing. When you win, you're supposed to share with your family. That's his tribal thing. That's his relationships. That's how he deals with relationships, and you can see that along the way in the story. And so I connected this with pizza. um, when you go out with your family and you go to a pizza place, everybody gets a slice. That's how relationships tend to work, at least healthy relationships. They're nice and sharing, and we love to share, right? So everyone grabs a slice. That's how I correlated it. Okay, so for the next slide, I walked inside Big Hearts and counted 15 Indians, 8 men and 7 women. I didn't know any of them, but Indians like to belong, so we all pretend to be cousins. So for this one, I chose a very ignorant Peter Griffin from Family Guy. For those of you who are not aware, he is not Jewish, he is the one right here. And he thinks just because he's wearing a stereotypical Jewish outfit at a temple. I'm not too familiar with Judaism. I believe their churches are called temples, though. So he's at a temple and he's saying, what a glorious Jewish day. He thinks that he can fit in with this community, with this culture, but that is not the case in this scenario. But for him, for this quote, he discusses, yeah, that's how relationships work in the Indian community. We all kind of pretend to be close with one another, and yeah, I thought the comparisons were pretty funny to me. I was having a good time. Um, so the last quote, nearly blind with alcohol, I stood alone at the bar and swore I'd been standing in the bathroom with Irene only a minute ago. Where's Irene and Honey Boy? Long gone. So to me, this quote is very vague in its own, but to me, it encaptures the whole meaning of this story, right? People come and go, relationships come and go. One minute they're here, the next minute they're gone. Just like this picture, seasons come and go, constantly changing from spring, summer, fall to winter, constantly changing, right? Just like this main character's life, people are constantly coming and going, and that's how relationships seem to work with him throughout the story. And it's unfortunate, but that's kind of his life, and he seems to be dealing with it quite well, though, so that's at least good. And that, my friends, wraps up this this PowerPoint. Here are my citations. Citations part one, citations part two. Thank you so much for listening to mine. For those of you fortunate enough to click on mine, I hope I hope you enjoyed my slide. I worked hard on it. I really did. Thank you so much, and I'll see y'all later.